There is a somewhat famous part of the Talmud, at the end of Tractate Saita, that speaks of the signs that the world is going to go through prior to the arrival of Mashiach, just prior to the arrival of Mashiach. And if we looked at this section of the Talmud over the past 30 years, you see many of the issues that the Talmud speaks about relevant to our time. But going through it last week, you saw that some of these things over the past 30 years, you needed some homiletic interpretation to make it relevant. But now, it's actually spot on. So let me share with you what the Talmud says. The first thing the Talmud says is, Bikvas Mashiach Chutz Beyaski. When the footsteps of Mashiach, when the heel of Mashiach will come, first of all, there'll be a tremendous amount of insolence, brazenness, chutzpah. What is chutzpah? Chutzpah means that there is no substance to the person's arrogance, if you'd like. That people do things without something to fall back on. They have knowledge, they have wisdom, they have understanding, they have generosity, they have achievements. Without any of that. Chutzpah. I put myself in a place because I have the chutzpah to do it. Someone told me something very interesting last week. He said, in the past, for someone to have a voice, they needed to have gone through life's experiences. If you have a voice, if you're someone who's a scholar, someone who's a leader, someone who's achieved a lot in business, someone has to be, to get yourself quoted in the newspaper, for example, you needed to be a somebody, so to speak. You needed to have something that you've achieved through life. And the reality is, when people go through life and have gone through the ups and downs of life, that kind of... it chisels you a little bit. It makes you more nuanced and more understanding. The problem today, the guy told me, is everyone in his mother's basement is able to just go online and say whatever they want to say. And it doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be thought through. It could just be blotted out there. And it becomes a topic of a conversation. It becomes the issue that people accept. It's crazy. That's chutzpah yaski. All they have is chutzpah. They have no achievements in life. All they have is the chutzpah to get online and to say whatever they want. And we see, unfortunately, chutzpah is something, well, over the last 30 years we've had a lot of chutzpah. People have acted in a way of chutzpah with this brazen insolence. Unfortunately, the events that have taken place over the last couple of days in 770 is just basic chutzpah, where a bunch of youth have just taken matters in their own hand, do whatever they want, bring destruction on the sanctified shul of the Rebbe, because of what they think, without going to the proper people who are in charge of the place, or authorities, or advisors of more senior individuals. They do whatever they like. That's a expression of this piece of Talmud of chutzpah yaski. The next thing the Talmud says is yeker yamir, which means there'll be the prices will skyrocket, will soar. Basically, it's inflation. Now, although we've had higher levels of inflation maybe in the past, but the quick extent of inflation over the past couple of years has been mind-boggling and staggering. So we see that as another sign. The next thing the Talmud says is that although the vineyard will give its grapes, the wine will still be expensive. Which means this, why? Because the demand will be so high. So I look at this in two ways. Number one, yes, substance abuse. There'll be a tremendous amount of substance abuse, so no matter how much there is of these kind of substances, it'll never be enough. Number two, it could mean in a broader sense that the economy of the world, or the food supply in the world, there'll be enough food grown, which is the case today, but nevertheless there could be starvation because of the inability to bring the food, to distribute the food to wherever the people who need it are, whether it be because of despots, of wars, or other such things. So there'll be enough food in the world, but it won't be enough. There'll still be a lack. The kingdom, the leadership of the world, will transform into minus. Minus means heresy. And we've seen this. The country that leads the world, the United States, used to be a country that was very much under God, very much faithful, and God-fearing. And we've had, unfortunately, a situation today where any morality, any dimension, recognition of God is not allowed. It's not allowed in the public schools. It's not allowed in the public square. The Pledge of Allegiance, in many places they've taken out the word under God, and instead of the idea of separation of church and state, or instead of the idea of freedom of religion, they see it as freedom from religion. And so we have a bunch of people running countries who are not God-fearing, certainly do not have the divine morality as their North Star. So that's what we see. And then there is no rebuke. And you say, what do you mean there's no rebuke? You're unable to, well, there's a lot of rebuke. People are constantly rebuking each other. That's what they constantly doing on social media. I think to say, what does it mean there's no rebuke, is that you can't achieve anything because people are not speaking in a way that people will listen to them. You can't say that to me, you're no better, right? So that's one thing. And there's no respect to listen to other people's other points of view, to say, okay, maybe I should take that on. Maybe I should think about things in a different way. That's absolutely gone out the window. It doesn't exist. The next thing the Talmud says is Beis Vad Yilaz Nus. The place of gathering will be a place of immorality, of sexual immorality. Think about that. I mean, we just had a story in the United States Senate where a hearing room, a place of gathering of the senators, the leaders of the country, was a place that people had an actual sexual encounter, which was videotaped. They made a sexual video in the hearing room of the Senate that kind of depicts this Beis Vad Yilaz. And then, of course, we see these orgies or the Mardi Gras or all these sexual deviant behaviors and expressions in public spaces, not in private areas. So the place of gathering has become a place of sexuality. Then here goes the one. So all this, in a sense, could have been relevant over the past 30 years, except for the inflation. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Then here we go. Vagola v'yecharav. The Galil, the north of Israel, will be destroyed. It's empty. No one's there. Everyone's left their homes. Vagavlam Yishaim, a place called Gavlan, which from the book of Joshua we know is a place on the Lebanese border. That will be Yishaim. It will be desolate. The Anshe Agvul, men of the border towns, people of the border towns, the north, the south. Yisavevu me'ir le'ir. They'll wander from city to city. V'lo yichananu, and they will not be succored. There will not be any compassion. People in the border towns of Israel are not able to be in their homes for 100 days. Or it's coming to soon 100 days. And it doesn't seem like there's any support. They go to one place, then they're kicked out from there, they have to go somewhere else. Some people want to leave their homes because they're close to the border, but aren't given the ability to do so because they're just outside the threshold lines. So we see that happening. The wisdom of scribes will decay. How I try to see that? Look at our higher education. The wisdom of scribes, the Yales, the Harvards, the Oxfords, the MITs, and all these universities, many universities. I mentioned a few, but it's many universities who have we know that there's nothing to find there. There's no values there. There's no morals. There's no ethics. It's total. It's decayed. Those who fear God, they will be despised. Believers, God-fearing people will be despised. The emes tehei nederes. Truth will be absent. How we see this now. Wow. Truth is absent. Those who say October 7th didn't happen, or didn't happen this way, didn't happen that way, and speaking about Israel and genocide and apartheid, all kinds of bubamaises, that there was something called a Palestinian state which never existed. It's just lies upon lies and bigger lies, and the lies that we see in politics, and what people have learned is just do. And as I've spoken in the past, just say big lies, people will believe you, because people can't imagine that you make such big lies that are not true. We're seeing it in the most mind-blowing way. People just lie and don't tell the truth. I'm talking about the leadership. I'm talking about governments across the board throughout the world. The youth will blanch the face of the elders. They'll embarrass the elders. The youth will take things into their own hand and not listen to their elders. We've already mentioned that before. Elders will stand in the presence of the minors. There's Ben Menavalav, a son will deride his father, Bas Kamabima, Kalabachamesa, a daughter rises against her mother, a daughter-in-law against his mother-in-law. Avi Ish Ansri Beisa, a man's enemies are the people of his own household. All these lack of respect and lack of authority. Today we have a time like never before where the hierarchy of parents educating their children and being respected by their children doesn't exist as it used to. We have a situation that children think they could talk back to their parents, don't respect their parents, at best they're friends, and sometimes the parents stand up for their children, in other words, have to show them respect in order for them to help. It's actually, it's not the way the world was meant to be. Pnei Ader ki pnei hakelev. The face of the generation will be like the face of a dog. What does that mean? So a dog runs in front of its master, but is always looking back to see where the master wants to go. So if you're looking, you could think the dog is leading the master, but in truth, even though the master is walking behind the dog, it's the one leading the dog. He's the one leading the dog, because the dog is looking back where the master wants him to go. Our leadership are meant to lead, but instead of leading, they're looking at poles. Say, okay, where does everyone want me to go? Maybe I'm just going to go there. There isn't the idea of leadership, of having values and say, okay, guys, this is where we have to go. But rather, we look at where do people want me to go? Where do my followers want me to lead them? So basically, I'm not leading. I'm just one of the followers. Son does not get embarrassed from his father. And the Gemara concludes, the Talmud concludes, upon whom do we have to rely on? We can only lean on our Father in heaven. This is the time we're in. We can only lean on our Father in heaven. Hopefully that tells us that Moshiach is just imminent, he's coming. Now the Maharal of Prague tells us that all these things are happening in order to transform the world. You need to kind of lose your previous existence in order to be able to reach a state of understanding a new reality. If you're full of your perspective of the world till now, you will not be able to see a new perspective, a new way of seeing the world. So all these things happen to the world, says the Maharal, in order for us to be open to a new reality of the coming of Moshiach. Our eyes and minds must be open to it. Our eyes and minds should be open to it. We've seen this incredible change in the world. It has shaken us up. Now we're ready. We're ready for the revelation of Mashiach Tzidkenu.